Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dal. Patch 10.2 brought with it a significant rework for the class of Rogue, which has given the specs of Assassination, Outlaw, and Subtlety new quality of life improvements and has boosted each spec when it comes to their overall endgame performance. So far on this channel, we've been able to go over how to maximize each rogue spec in PvE content such as raids and dungeons, but recently I found myself enjoying my current main, the spec of Outlaw, within PvP content as well. The playstyle has been getting a lot more popularity ever since the launch of the Season 3, with many players getting to experiment with new capstones such as Crackshot and the reworked Killing Spree, and it feels like the Priority spec has finally been able to establish some form of competitive footing so far in the patch 10.2. So because my all-time favorite spec is finally getting some time in the spotlight, I decided to put together a quick PvP guide on how to get started when playing your Outlaw Rogue for the Season 3 of the patch 10.2. But right before we dive into this guide video, most of you guys watching these are still not subscribed. However, the more of you remind, the more of you do. So let's keep it going. Subscribe to the channel and ring the bell if you're watching these videos anyway. Especially if you want to get more regular content regarding Dragonflight 10.2 or any of the future updates going forward. As with all the other guides on this channel, let's start off with the talent builds first. First of all, we have the Ambush build, which is a popular choice right now amongst Outlaw rogues. Similar to Subtlety rogues, this build focuses on having the maximum amount of damage in your opener and plays around crucial stealth abilities like Shadow Dance and Vanish, while priming your enemies for a big bursty opener together with the debuff of Ghostly Strike. This build also has a couple of defensive talent options, such as Elusiveness versus Cheat Death, depending on how bursty the enemy team may be, or Float like a butterfly versus Sting like a bee, depending if you want more defense or offense. Then we have the Sinister Strike build, which is an easier build to get into if you're a new rogue player for the patch 10.2. Compared to the Ambush build, the Sinister Strike build focuses on high sustained damage, while still retaining a little bit of burst, though not as bursty as the Ambush version. What makes this build work is the talent of Summarily Dispatched, which allows you to increase the damage of your dispatch finisher, which provides far better consistency. This build also allows the use of the revamped Killing Spree, which is now a finisher that outputs far more damage than ever before, which can be used offensively to pressure enemy targets or defensively to stagger some of the damage taken. Next, we have PvP talents, starting with Enduring Brawler, which increases the chance for your Sinister Strikes or ambushes to strike twice, which gives you far better output and more combo points. Veil of Midnight is another popular choice. Where Cloak or Shadows would normally shield you from harmful magic effects, Veil allows Cloak to do the same for physical effects, such as bleeds or even physical debuffs. Your final PvP talent choice will really depend on the situation. When faced against a lot of melee opponents, talents like Disarm can help mitigate some of their damage output. Talents like Smoke Bomb can create line of sight in order to securely take down your target. Take Your Cut can increase your haste anytime you reroll your buffs, and even Death from Above can be used in order to immune certain crowd control abilities. So as it stands, your final PvP talent choice is really up to you, and you are free to adjust it based on your combat encounter or pick a talent choice that fits your playstyle best. Next, let's go over how to gear our rogue for the patch 10.2. In Dragonflight, the only gear you need to PvP will come from Honor and Conquest vendors. All PvP items will be heavy on Versatility, which is your best stat for offensive and defensive value. Afterwards, your best secondary stats are going to be either Crit or Mastery. Ideally, Critical Strike is your better stat since it synergizes with the crit-focused Outlaw build, especially with the new Crackshot talent, which allows you to chain multiple Between the Eyes back to back. When Between the Eyes Critical Strikes, it deals 4 times the normal damage, which allows Critical Strike to naturally synergize with the Outlaw Rogue gameplay. However, Mastery is a close second competitor to Critical Strike. Mastery provides you with additional sustained damage, but also enables you to play other rogue specs as well. And if you plan to play Outlaw, Subtlety, and Assassination within Season 3, then I recommend stacking Mastery Versatility gear. However, if you're solely focused on the Outlaw Rogue, then Critical Strike and Versatility will be your best secondary stat options. Next, let's go over some of the embellishments that you may want to bring into PvP. First will be the boots of the Infurious Foot Wraps of Indemnity, which provide you with a stat boost every time you interrupt or lock down an enemy target. The second best crafted item will be the Undulating Spore Cloak, which did get nerfed for the patch 10.2. However, even with the nerfs, the Spore Cloak still offers you quite a decent amount of defensive value when locked down by enemy targets. And throughout the season, you'll want to be on the lookout to obtain your tier set bonus as soon as possible. While the 2 set bonus provides you a slightly higher chance to strike again with ambushes and sinister strikes, the 4 piece on the other hand offers you the most amount of value. Every time you use the ability of Roll the Bones, you may take one of those combat buffs into your next buff rotation, which allows you to maintain a minimum of 2 buffs at a time, which gives you a higher chance to obtain a more impactful combat buff. Next, let's go over the rotation and the playstyle of the Outlaw Rogue within PvP. Starting off with your common point builders. Sinister Strike will be a very basic builder, which will be your go-to to build common points. There's a chance that Sinister Strike may strike twice, which gives you an opportunity proc, allowing you to use pistol shots to generate more common points and deal more damage. Then we have the ability of Ambush. When playing the ambush build of Outlaw Rogue, your pistol shot opportunity procs can sometimes allow you to use ambush in place of a Sinister Strike, which generates far more common points and deals additional damage. Lastly, we have Ghosted Strike, which is an ability you don't necessarily use for common points. Rather, you use it as part of your burst window in order to give your enemy a vulnerability debuff. Use your combat point building abilities until it reach about 5 or more combat points. Afterwards, you should spend your combat points on finishers. Your first offensive finisher will be between the eyes, which deals the most amount of damage. And with the talent of Crack Shot, we may use between the eyes multiple times in a quick succession, which allows us to burst our targets quickly. The finisher of Between the Eyes does have a short cooldown, which means we will want to hold off from using it and line it up together with abilities that grant us stealth, such as Vanish or Shadow Dance, in order to take advantage of the Crack Shot mechanic. When Between the Eyes is not available or we are holding it for the next burst window, we will use the ability of Dispatch to deal majority of our damage. Then we have Slice and Dice, which is a finisher buff that increases our auto attack speeds. Slice and Dice is a crucial buff that should be maintained at all times. However, you should not be casting Slice and Dice when going for the kill, so try to refresh Slice and Dice during combat downtime. Lastly, we have the finisher of Kidney Shot, which will be used to lock our targets down in a stun. Kidney Shot can either be used on our focus target in order to lock them down and burst them, but can also be used to lock down a target we're looking to control but not necessarily focus on. One of the main combat mechanics that makes Outlaw Rogue unique from other specs of Rogue is Roll the Bones, which is an ability that allows you to roll a random assortment of combat enhancements. Similar to Slice and Dice, you should use Roll the Bones during combat downtime, and try to hold on to certain buffs for as long as possible. Buffs like True Bearing provide you with additional cooldown reduction for your offensive and utility abilities, while Broadsides increases your combo point generation while also increasing the damage of your combo point builders. Another question I get asked often is how to play your Outlaw Rogue defensively within PvP. Rogues have access to a number of powerful defensive cooldowns, though each one of these skills has very specific rules on how to use them appropriately. In most cases, your first line of defense will be Vanish, which allows you to flee from enemy sight and dive into stealth. Vanish should be a priority defensive cooldown because of the Outlaw Rogue's natural cooldown reduction mechanic, which allows you to gain utility abilities such as Vanish. You can use Vanish to then slink away from an enemy target to escape danger, or can use Vanish offensively to counter-attack your target. And don't be afraid to use Vanish in order to free yourself from movement impairing effects if being out of position could put you in potential danger. Besides Vanish, you can also use mobility skills such as Grapple Hook, Sprint, or Shadow Step to simply run away from the immediate threat, or use crowd control abilities such as Gouge, Blind, or Kidney Shot to keep a dangerous enemy target contained. Next, we have the ability of Evasion, which grants us 100% dodge chance. However, you must be facing the enemy target at all times in order to dodge their physical attacks. Evasion will not protect you from any magic damage, though Cloak of Shadows will. However, Cloak of Shadows is a big defensive cooldown that gives you immunity to magic effects, but also physical effects thanks to our PvP talent choices. However, after enemies see you use your Cloak of Shadows ability, this is where most of them will try to press the offensive against the rogue. After using Cloak of Shadows, be ready to make a quick escape or seek some cover to line of sight the enemy target. Compared to the previous seasons of Dragonflight, Outlaw Rogues actually have quite a bit of burst as of patch 10.2, and we can achieve a lot of this damage right from the opener. Before you open up on your target, start in stealth, press Adrenaline Rush and then roll the bones to roll at least 2 combat enhancements. And in the opener you can start with a cheap shot, Ghost Strike into between the eyes within the same global. Afterwards you build combo points as quickly as possible and then between the eyes as often as you can inside of your subterfuge window, while trying to catch as many ace up your sleeve procs as possible, which allows you to cast between the eyes multiple times in a row. This bursty opener can also be adjusted to be used outside of stealth as well. First you want to start off with a full set of buffs as well as Slice and Dice, then Kidney Shot your target. There you'll Ghost Strike into Shadow Dance and Adrenaline Rush at the same time to generate maximum combo points and then use between the eyes. Afterwards you proceed by building combo points and using between the eyes as often as possible inside of your Shadow Dance window. Lastly, I want to mention the ability of Blade Flurry, which is how Outlaw Rogues cleave nearby targets. With the talent of Underhanded Upper Hand, Outlaw Rogues do not lose the uptime of Slice and Dice while Blade Flurry is active, and Blade Flurry does not lose uptime while Adrenaline Rush is active. And you can maintain Adrenaline Rush for a very long time when you use abilities such as Vanish or Shadow Dance. This means that you should try to use Blade Flurry as often as possible, as it allows you to maintain passive damage which cleaves onto nearby targets. This cleave damage is also quite significant as it allows you to put pressure on entire enemy teams when they're closely stacked together. However, the only time you don't want to maintain Blade Flurry is if you want to focus on crowd controlling multiple targets that are going to be stacked together. So try to maintain Blade Flurry when possible, but be ready to cancel it if you ever need to crowd control enemy targets. Lastly, let's go over how to finish optimizing our gear with gems and enchants. For gems, you want to run either a Zen Netherite or Radiant Alexstrasite, depending whether you want to focus on Mastery or Critical Strike. You want the Sophic enchant on both of your weapons, Waking stats on your chest piece, Fierce armor kit on your leg slots, cloaks, bracers, and boots should all be enchanted for the stat of speed in order to grant us additional mobility. Rings can be enchanted for crit or mastery depending on how you're trying to gear out your rogue. And your waist slot should also be enchanted with a shadowed belt clasp for additional stamina. And that's going to finish out our Outlaw Rogue guide for the patch 10.2 within Season 3. It feels like we haven't been able to do a proper PvP guide on this channel in quite a while, and I've been having such a good time with Outlaw Rogue for the 10.2, and I certainly hope you guys are enjoying it as well. As per usual, if you guys enjoyed this video or found it informative, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. I would very much appreciate it. And as always, in the description of every single video and live stream, we have a link to our Discord community channel. Probably the best place to reach out to me directly in case you want to let me know what you thought about this video or hang out with the rest of the community to discuss some of the upcoming changes. Join our Discord to become part of the community. But otherwise, thank you all so much for watching this video. I do hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know all of your thoughts down below. And as always, I'll see all of you guys in another video.